Hello, hello out there, crypto world, and also finance world in general, and traders, investors, and alike, since we do talk about more than just crypto here. That's usually towards the end of the show, if you didn't know. Also, if you didn't know, this is No Noise Research with your host, Z-Rex. Yes, that is me. I hope y'all been having an awesome weekend. It is coming to a close on this beautiful Sunday evening. On September 23rd, 2018, down here in Texas, it finally cooled off a little bit. We've been getting some rain from that storm on the coast, so that's been kind of nice. It's not over 100 like every day, so that's cool. Some other crypto news, because, you know, I know y'all don't really care about Texas weather that much. Bitmain, it's pretty cool. They are already down to 7 nanometer ASICs for Bitcoin. Pretty wild. They are moving quick. Seems like just yesterday they were in the 20s. Yeah, it's pretty wild how fast this space is growing. Also, Ant Pool in the top 3 mining pools in the world, I believe. They might be top 4. I know they're one of the main ones. They signed a deal with the Houston Rockets down here in Texas, which is pretty cool. Doing a little advertised promo stuff down there, so I'm curious to see where that'll go. And some Republican congressmen, specifically one from Minnesota named Tom Emmer, is introducing 3 crypto bills. One citing just general support by government and, you know, regulatory bodies alike. The second one, which is really cool, entities such as miners and multi-sig partners and providers need not to apply as money transmitters. So that's pretty badass. I hope that gets pushed through. And the third one is just more clarity on cryptocurrencies in general when it comes to taxes. And that one will be directed to the IRS. Pretty cool stuff. Way to go, Mr. Tom, out there in Minnesota. 5 other Republican congressmen out of here, Texas, Arizona, Ohio, Kansas, and Illinois are also pretty much strongly urging on that IRS issue too. I don't think that they are backing him directly, but they have voiced their opinions. I'm sure that they probably will be giving him support if they like anything in there. So, way to go. Some people out there are trying to, you know, get this ball rolling. Speaking of ball rolling, let's jump into the markets. Here we go. As we like to start out with, the market cap. We are hovering around still this 25 or 225, kind of just rounded down. 225 billion, the total market cap. So we are kind of just chilling out there. Nothing too exciting since the last video. The one major difference is that the dominance on Bitcoin has certainly dropped. Not super crazy. I would imagine most of that is probably due to Ripple. So, oops. Yeah, most of that's probably due to Ripple getting a lot of love here recently. And there actually has been some pretty good performing altcoins in the space recently in this rally. Let's go check some of them out. Let me filter a little bit of this stuff here. Alright, so in the last, let's do the last week. Of course, Ripple, Stellar will be up there. Cardano, Tron, a new economy movement have been doing pretty good. I guess I did a little bit too much because there is one that was up a lot today. I believe it was starts with an N. I can't think of it right now, and I don't know why, because it's been around for a hot minute. I guess it's got a tiny market cap. I have to go down to, man, actually I'm not sure, guys, sorry. I feel like a dumb for that, but anyway, Cion coin has been performing really nice. I've been watching the storage token game for a little bit. I think that's going to be some good movement in there. Once this market turns around, they will probably outperform, because some of those are pretty awesome. Filecoin comes to mind. Actually, we can just go ahead and click on here. If you want to see, this is cool. You can go up here, and on this top part, you can go to related, and then it'll give you a lot of the related coins in that field. So there's quite a few of them. Most of them would be like, most recognizable ones will probably be Storage, Factum, and Made Safe. Of course, there is a lot more than that, but those are kind of your top dogs in that space, along with Cion coin. So they've been killing it. Yeah, it sucks. I'm a little pissed off because I've been watching these, and you sleep for a little bit and turn around, and they pop hard, just as this did here in the last couple days. No worries. Opportunity is infinite. Your capital is finite. Don't forget that. Alright, so let's go back to the main page. Check out some more movers. You know, Ripple couldn't hold the #2 market cap spot. Of course it couldn't. Not a shocker. I'm not saying that it can't, but you know, when everybody starts talking about it, I have not seen so many damn Ripple headlines in a long time. Yeah, so everyone is talking about Ripple. Bitcoin Cash sitting up here, hanging around 500 bucks. Everything is kind of just stalling a little bit here, which isn't the most favorable thing, given where we are on the chart. And I will explain that here a little bit more in detail. Zcash doing good. Doge still hanging around 90s. Neo doing pretty solid as well. Maybe it's like not even in the top anymore, and I can't find it because it already like tanked. That's probably what happened. Oh well. So dominance down slightly, still above 50, and as you can see on this graph here, it is still in a good uptrend. This is one of the bigger blows here, so that makes sense with Ripple specifically getting lots of attention lately. So if we did that and we look at, oh, let's go ahead and check out some volume too. Oh, I guess that's the same link to here. Yeah, CoinMarketCap definitely does have CoinCheckup locked up on that part, but that's okay. Let's just jump into the chart. So as y'all can see, we're still in this amazing green box right here. You know, it's your favorite green box ever. We just can't get out of it. Been in it almost, I'd say most of the year, especially most of the summer. And so far, we'll see. I do think there's going to be some big moves here coming up real fast. Bitcoin does like to move beast mode in the wintertime, and it's generally to the upside. I think it's like all of them except for 2014 and maybe like 10 or 9 maybe. It's just hard because there's not that much data on those. So but since like 12, I think it is only once in 2014 Bitcoin ended up falling about, it was a lot, it was like 50% if memory serves me correctly. So we do have this announcements coming up this week. I think we have several this week, and they have been talking about, you know, gosh, the SEC, about how they're looking into the ETF now. It's like, haven't they always been looking into it? It's just, I just don't even really talk about that much, except for this line that I know that they have to say something by then, and we're getting real close to that line, y'all. So that's pretty much this week. I believe the 30th, the end of this month, yeah, is Sunday, so we should be getting a lot of news this week, and some large movements to go along with it, if I had to guess. We are staying above on the daily, just looking at price to start with. We are staying above the 55 moving average here. That's good. That's a good sign. We want to see that. Had a nice little huge tail on this candle. Let's zoom in on that a little bit on the 4-hour. Yeah, it's kind of another one of these guys. Pretty wild. A lot of buyers stepped in there, and we are doing business above that closing price. here, an opening price here, which is about 66.5 or so. And we are attempting right now to move up into past this longer term moving average, which is the 377 EMA. And if, oh man, it is struggling right here. This is really interesting price action. And now the blue dots, which are the triple exponential, which moves very different than your traditional moving averages. I suggest you just go check them out, play around with them a little bit. I find value in them for sure. I like to use them exactly how what it's doing now is printing some overhead resistance here at about, let's just call that about 6,800. All right, we'll round it up a little bit and match it up kind of with this wick. If you really wanted to technically know, it's 67, like 75, but whatever. We're going to call it about 68. And on top of that, you do have the longer term moving average, and it's having trouble getting through there. Now, you could call this a type of flag formation here. I know that is very amazingly drawn, but you get the idea. If you don't, let me be a little bit more precise. Here you go, kind of like that. And when price breaks out of that zone, especially to the upside, that would be some good confirmation. And it's pretty damn tight if you kind of draw it with actual lines instead of my you know, my makeshift little drawing tool. You know, kind of looking about like this. So this little channel that we have created in this price action is something to be very aware of. If we break either way on this, it's likely going to move really big. And it's, let's see, let's get some internals going, or oscillators, whatever you want to call them. Still neutral on the daily. We are above the 50 on the RSI though, so that's a little bit of strength. The 3-day is no longer bearish anymore. It's neutral, and it's still teetering with the 50 RSI, not over it yet. The 4-hour is very neutral. I mean, extremely super neutral. You're not getting anything from that. The hourly is slightly bearish. So again, it's like we've had to watch. We've talked about this in a lot of the videos in the recent week or two. When price gets into these zones, like how it's been in since, you know, most of September, you know, oscillators, it's really tough to see anything. So you almost just want to play ranges at this point and wait for price to break out. The only thing that I kind of find useful in this type of environment is the 1-hour DMI, which I use a lot and have explained it in detail in other videos. Please do check out those. They are all time-stamped again, so you can view very quickly. And so when you're in this power zone, which is the upper zone, this top horizontal line on the DMI indicator, which is over here, when they are above that level, that you know, bull or bear has more power at that in that time frame than the other, and especially when they're down below in the weak zone, which is below this middle line. So here, I'll just make this bigger so it's a little easier to see. So yeah, especially when you have the opposite, the bull or the bear below this, with you know, the bear in this case on the top and here. This is really good setup for, this means the bears clearly have the strength, and you can see that played out real nicely right here. Same to this token, you had the bulls kind of like coming up, then you had some weird wonky price action. I'm not really sure what that was, but pretty weird. And then it kind of, they're battling at the top right at 26, which is kind of rare. That means it can go either way, but then the bulls start to lose right here, and then officially right here, and then they got slapped massively. But that was only for like part of the day. This is a really tight battle, y'all. Like, I think that it's really frustrating people, the trading in these ranges. You know, most people haven't traded that long, and you know, it seems like most people jumped in like last year in the crypto space. There are a few guys that, you know, came from traditional trading equities or futures or something like that, options, and you know, they, like I have myself, but there's guys that have been doing it way longer, and they talk about this kind of stuff too, you know, since it's like immature and just you just got what's the word I'm trying to find? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I digress from price charts. That's what we need to talk about, price and charts. All right, so back to some chart action. So you can see that the bears do have control right now on the hourly, and I'm not a huge fan of this price action right here. I mean, the only thing that is really good is you have all this got picked up on this candle, but we are pretty much trading inside of this body, and I'm gonna say if price cannot hold like 6,600, you know, we're gonna roll back over most likely. And you know, for the bullish side, which we talked about while this was happening, you know, it needs to get over 68 on the daily, and ultimately 69, and get out of this box, which is about where we're at there, and the Fibonacci retracement from this move here, which I'll just go ahead and show you, because you're probably, if you never tried it that much, you're like, what the hell are you talking about, man? So if you kind of pull a fib from this move, a measured move, 618 is right here, which is right where our box is, which is pretty funny that those are lining up. And so that's why we've been talking, you know, price needs to close above this to really get bullish. If not, bunch of noise. And you can take this 618 back to over here. Let me show you, because this is pretty relevant. 618 right here failed. It did the same thing, or maybe it's not. Sorry, I'm being premature here. It might not do that, but here it did it. And then if we go back to and measure this one from the peak to the trough here, 618 exactly. So that's pretty interesting, right? Smashed on that one. And let's do it one more again right here. That one got a little bit above it, but ultimately, I mean, barely, you know, tiny, 100, 200 bucks. And then immediately rolled over. I mean, fast, engulfing candles right after that. They were like, nope. Bears are like, nope, I own you still. Watch out. Trample time. Or not trample time, I guess just face ripping time. I guess bears would be, or bulls would be the ones that would trample, right? So you have another one right there. And if you take this one too, it's not the 618, but it's the 50. That's where you start getting that massive resistance, is between the 50 and the 618 when you pull fib numbers like this. So it was so weak then it couldn't even get to the 618. But all these other bounces have all been exact 618 measurements from this sell-off. And then you can even go back to this guy here, back, and it was just a tad over the 618 too. So pretty funny. And here we are again, right here. 618 is outside of this box. I'm not getting bullish at all on Bitcoin until we break over that, at least longer term. Of course, you know, I could play short term, like we play bounces like this all the time, little ones in here, even like this one. But, you know, longer term though, it's like it's good to be not having massive exposure, maybe reduce your delta a little bit using futures. And if you don't know what delta is, that is your directional exposure. So if you had one Bitcoin, let's say, you sell short some Bitcoin on a futures exchange, but not one Bitcoin worth. Let's just say one Bitcoin, for easy math, is worth, you know, $8,000. And so, or let's say 6,000, because that's closer to where we are. $6,000. If you went and you only had one, and it's 6 grand. If you went to the futures market and sold $3,000 worth of value there, which would be short about half of a Bitcoin, now you've reduced your risk to only 50, like half of a Bitcoin long, which would be cutting your delta by half, which would be 50 at that point. And it's not, it sounds, I think, a lot more complicated than it really is. And let's say if you wanted to be long 75% of a Bitcoin, instead of selling some, you could just go into futures market and sell, in our 6,000 example. You could go that and go to the market and sell 25% of the 6,000, you know, and you would only short $1,500 worth of futures. You can go all the way down to make it even. You can sell 1 Bitcoin to your 1 Bitcoin, and no matter what it does, it's it. You're neutral. You just like lock in your profit or at the price that you have it at that given moment. Or loss too, right? Not all the time is it a profit. Definitely not. The most bullish thing I am seeing on this, back to some price action, is that we're closing above the 55 on consecutive daily candles so far. And that would be, I guess, well, it's actually only 2 since this one just started today. I would imagine we're not really going to do anything price-wise here until some kind of dumb comments from the SEC. That's going to be my guess. And on the hourly, the bears do have a slight advantage at the moment, so do be aware of that. On the 850, you are finding pretty hardcore resistance on the 144 exponential, which is this purple line. So also notable. Let's see if Ethereum is telling us anything cool. We were talking about how Ethereum had massive volume lately, and we put on this little trade right here. If you don't know, this is like a profit target. I think, what do they call it? I can't even remember. You just click like here, and it's a little risk reward calculation, and you can kind of plan your trade this way. So it's pretty cool to do. You just to give you a visual. Yeah, so back here, let me go zoom out a little bit. So back here, before this even happened, because obviously when we drew this box over here, price was like here. So we were talking about all this volume, and it's the most volume that we've seen on Ethereum almost its whole time, and it's slightly more sell volume for sure, and that was at that time of recording. But now there has been some more buy volume added to it since I discussed that, and now it's a little bit more neutral than it was. Maybe instead of 60 or 55% sell pressure, this looks more about like close to 50, maybe like 51 or 2% in favor. But you also can't just take it by just the colors, because if this just goes one more contract sold than bought, it's going to print that color, you know. So it's slightly hard to read just like that, but the more notable, more important thing is that we're getting lots of people playing here, and at a bottom too, at a 90% pullback. You know, there's a really good art case for this. Could be like a local bottom right here. There's definitely a case for that, and we discussed maybe the ETFs like getting denied, which I think is a very high probability, over 90% across the board. But I do think that there's a pretty good chance that the futures on Ethereum will be announced or something in this same time frame. I don't know, just food for thought. It's kind of a little weird feeling I got, and I don't trade off my feelings, guys. Okay, I have. Whenever I have, it's pretty much always guaranteed to lose. But no, I trade off technicals. I'm just relaying information and just kind of how I feel about that. And I think that is around the corner. They have hinted about it already a little bit. And so that could keep the market, you know, because everyone's so scared and fidgety about this stupid SEC crap, which really doesn't matter that much, I don't think. But an ETF future would be pretty cool. And since ETF futures are coming out now after we've gone down 90%, you know, one person or people could say, well, man, last time futures came out for Bitcoin, it was death. And it certainly was. Pretty much marked the top. And, you know, ETH futures, what if that started the next leg of that for the ultimate capitulation, which it absolutely could. But guys, we'll know that a little bit more with price action telling us that before any news or anybody else will tell you that, because This is everybody in the world is trading, is what you're watching. That's the most important movie, not what anybody else says. CNBC, CNN, CCN, in any of those, whatever. Kind of irrelevant. You know, I talk about price is king. And also a quote from Bernard Baruch. Show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. Which I firmly believe that. Alright, back to price action. Oh man, yeah, so on here, the hourly, like in Bitcoin, is showing a little bit bearishness. The hourly DMI is showing bullishness. Slight bullishness, mostly neutral. But it has a slight bullish bias. But the 4-hour is very bullish. And the daily is neutral, just like most of the time frames. We just haven't had big enough moves to kind of break us out of that. One thing that is noticeable on Ethereum, as we've been discussing, Ethereum has kind of been leading the way lately, which is kind of interesting. It led the way to the downside, especially if you go back here on the daily and we check out just the 21 exponential, and that's all we look at. I mean, it's been bearish since 450 and hasn't been above it since then. Okay, and so now we are getting above that with some pretty decent conviction here. And you can actually see all the way back here that the 21 crossed the 55 and the 144 at the same time, and it just hasn't had any love since then. It is notable that all the averages are below the longest term, which is the red one there with the dots. So, you know, this is kind of bearish zone still. But crypto's crazy, and doubling is really easy to do. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you just got to be cautious of that. Here you go, 618. We are getting resistance right there. That is interesting from this sell-off. Funny, that's where Bitcoin is, so it's in a similar spot. It just looks a little bit more bullish on the technicals. And an extension and target move from this after it would break, you know, this price is about 350, 375. So, oops, I did not mean to erase that one. Meant to erase that one. There we go. And that's how we kind of, and we were just playing this because the risk to reward was really good on this trade setup here. You pretty much can go, I don't know why I have this box so large. It's not like I was going to be in that trade that long. There we go. Oh man, sorry, my computer is messing up a little bit. Alright, so we set this up for about a 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio back to the middle of this channel. And we even discussed too, like, you know, as price goes by, or as time goes by, like, the target actually falls, because this is more of the target than this flat number of 290. You have to kind of go with this part with time. Don't forget you have the x-axis on time. And so now you're more looking in this range, which is about, let's say, 270. So, but still really good. And this is where we talk about too, ratcheting now your stop up to here. So now you have a no risk trade on, especially when they go in your favor. If you do that real fast, now you can't lose money on this trade. And those are really good. And one thing you can even do is move up the entire play. Whoops, hold on. Let me just leave it like it was. But move up like your whole stop up into the green. So now you've actually locked money in. That's a really good way to do it. All right, so Ethereum is kind of telling us a little bit like, hey man, we could definitely be, man, my computer is really lagging out right now. I'm sorry about that, guys. It's kind of there we go. That's kind of weird. Anyway, so you can see too, even when we put this trade on right here, there was a little scare, but this is why you set this up this way. When you entered in the trade with no bias, and you had no confirmation bias, then, you know, this shouldn't phase you. It only should phase you when it gets to the bottom of this part of the box. But it only got halfway and got bought back up immediately. Irrelevant. Doesn't even matter. As you can see, it bounced on that entry point that we had for a hot minute and took off. So that was pretty nice. But Ethereum is showing a little bit more bullishness than Bitcoin. So is it the canary again? maybe Ethereum will be the new Bitcoin. Dun dun dun. LTC actually worked perfect for our trade setup here that we put on, and it tapped right into that middle of the range. If we zoom out a little bit, let me go ahead and do that. So the middle of this target, which is marked with the dotted purple, we did the same pretty much trade with Ethereum. They both had similar setups. Litecoin is looking pretty damn bullish here. Let's see on the daily. Except on the daily, actually. It looks okay on the daily, but it's getting rejected at the 55, while other stuff is above it already. So do be wary of that. I do think that... Oh, let me go back here. Messed up my other screen. So it is still bullish, very bullish on the 4 hour, like super bullish. And but this right here, this is where you got to manage, right? We talk about managing about like part of it, maybe 20 to 50%, depending how you like to trade. I like to usually do around 25-30%. And when it gets about halfway on my target, and then I let the rest ride to try to hit the target. And you can see this hit it fairly quickly. So that was a nice little setup there. But yeah, so since that got hit, you should be managing that, taking it off, and then this is over. It's done now. Clean it up. You always have to keep it clean so you don't get emotional. I know it seems dumb, but just keeping your stuff clean and fresh to where there isn't anything on there to give you any bias or any like emotions from the last trade that you had will make you a way better trader. For sure. I know it has for me. So it looks like we're above the 618 though, from the local to local. Yeah, actually we are on Litecoin. And not only are we, but we have found support on it a little bit in the last day or so. So that is actually very notable. So maybe Litecoin is telling us something. Charlie Lee says, oh, you go long now. I'm not going to get long here, though, at all until we can break above this 55 faux show. And right now, after hitting the target, you know, now the risk has flipped. And this is the hardest thing with trading, is you have to be able to change your mind. And now once you get this, don't FOMO and add to your position. You hit your target, you did good, take it off and look for the next opportunity. You know, one could argue that just based off price action in this channel alone, and coming up on all these different resistance levels, that now your risk to reward is flipped to shorting here is a better idea. Alright, so that would look something like this. Let's go ahead and put it in and see what happens. So if we do it like this, and we kind of put it in about this area, and our stop will be about, let's do it at the 377, so that's about 5%, about $3, $3.33 if you really wanted to know. And target, and this is where I like to do targets. I like to use Fibonacci for that. And so I'll measure and look at some targets here. So let's see how the 618 lines up with a lot of this business done here. That means this is probably pretty thin from the 3.8 to the half back. So what I'm going to do is kind of target right above that 618, kind of in this business zone. So that's about a 2 to 1. That's about the minimum you want to go for. So what I might do actually on this is ratchet that down to the tops of these bodies here to give me a little bit better. Maybe I'll split that wick. There we go. We'll split the wick. We'll make it about $2 upside, so it's only about 3%, and then that changes us to over 3, which is where I like to be, is over my risk reward ratio to be over 3. So we're going to leave this set up here because now it has flipped. And that doesn't mean that I'm bearish. I'm just reading the chart. And this could easily kind of sell off into somewhere into here and do this and then go higher. Could either easily just break it and also go up higher more. Like, you don't know, but you have to just take the best probabilities and just manage your risk appropriately. All right. So let's go to Litecoin being a little bit bullish, except being underneath this 55 EMA. That's the only thing I don't like about Litecoin. Everything else, though, is looking pretty good. Let's go to E. Oh, nope, sorry. Ripple. I know you've been wanting to talk about Ripple, Ripple, Ripple. No. Here we go. Jesus. Went to about 80 cents. It was an insane run. Who could have thought it was coming? Nobody knew. Let's see what DMI knew. Well, DMI said... Wow, man, this... I gotta restart my computer. This is frustrating. DMI says... And price above the 21.55 and the 144, and then getting above also this downward trend line that was intact since back in April in the last big run. Busted, consolidated over that, made a perfect flag, which we talked about, this flag being a flag and getting long if it can break out over like 36 cents or 35 cents. It was something like that. Go check out the video. I timestamp them, so it'll be either like the 18th or the 19th video. From the 18th or 19th. I'm not sure what episode that is. But anyway, yeah, DMI was like, hey, get it in, and then price action confirmed it, and then got above it. Here's above 36, and then DMI just took off. So DMI was pretty bullish on Ripple all the way back on this initial pop to back into the low 30s. You know, we watch Ripple a lot. We were playing short back when it finally broke this long-term trend line that it had and went sideways for a long time and struggled right here with the 21 exponential for weeks at a time, and then the bears finally got a hold of them after breaking there, and that's exactly, we were kind of like stacking here as a long until it did break below 40, and then once it broke below 40, that was an easy short setup to immediately just jump on to 40 down to about mid-20s, because there is no support in that area, which you can see from these candles over here. When they just rock it up like this, there's not that much business here because it hasn't been there ever. So it came back, revisited that point, and consolidated in that range, which is really good and healthy, and now is looking pretty damn bullish still. I don't like that everyone's talking about it. Grandma's talking about it. It's crazy. And now the TMA is giving us some like short-term resistance at about 63 cents. So can maybe get long, and I have a alert here at about 66 cents. If it gets above that, I'll probably get long. If not, I'll probably be jumping on the short once price breaks below 50 cents or breaks below this 21 exponential price-wise. And if we go onto the hourly, the DMI is actually showing us that it's pretty damn neutral at the moment. I mean, it's super damn neutral. I'm not a huge fan of this. Keep an eye on this hourly if you're in XRP at the moment. If the bears get above into this power zone, it's very likely that XRP will flash back down into the mid-30s. Definitely low 40s, I should say. I'm sorry. It's very likely that it'll crash to the low 40s, which coincides also with this longer-term exponential moving average here and all the business that was done there before it rolled over. So, which is right here and a little bit, no, that's like 50s, and this big wick here. So mostly all of this, it had a party time in the 40s. I would not be surprised for it to come back and test that area. So I have to just wait and see. Other than that, looking pretty bullish still. Oh yeah, EOS. Guess I have to type it in the right field there. EOS finding resistance is long term, kind of same pattern we're seeing all over the board. Banging right up against the longest term moving average on EOS, which is this red short line. There's just barely enough data. It just started getting printed mid-July. So this is going to be tough for EOS to get over here, especially if Mama Bear doesn't get going. Now you've got TMA and that stacking here. And I would bet that a Fibonacci retracement's also 618 from this localness where it's 7. Yep. right here. So it's all right here. This actually kind of looks like a good temporary short setup with a low risk entry just based off price alone. So something that would look like that is, let's do it like that. It's a little tab over here. It's the second one above like the images, which is that bottom one, and then it's called short position right here. And so if we put it like that, your stop can be right above this candle, because, you know, give you a little room for some fake out pumps. Maybe just like right above it. And then you know, you can pretty much target down to probably about in this business here. Let's see what the 618 is. Yeah, about 530. So yeah, let's go. We'll kind of target about the tops of all this business, and that's about a 618. And so, and that ends up being, I guess that's just a default length. That ends up being about a 2-to-1 there. So what I'm going to do is actually tighten this up to right on top of this exponential. If the daily closes above this red, then we are done. That gives us about 3-to-1 on this trade. I like that a lot better. So we'll leave that one set up and see what happens. This will immediately get stopped out if Mama Bear starts rallying, as I'm sure y'all are aware. XLM, let's check it. Breaking out, not a surprise, likes to follow. We've been watching XLM a lot. It has already come up to its 618 retracement from this sell-off here. You know, check out the other videos. We've been talking about how it looked really nice consolidating in this range for a hot minute, and the DMI has been bullish on this since the 12th of September, mind you. And that's on a 4-hour. On the hourly, it didn't get back bullish until the 20th of September. So right there, and we talked about it just off of a price range, you know, being in this box here. I believe we had the box drawn. Oh, it was drawn, you know, something around like these lines. Something about like that. But anyway, when price broke out of this, it was a really good signal for an easy trade, very low risk trade, which played out fairly well here. I didn't take the XLM trade though, unfortunately. It's kind of dumb. Not any divergence yet on the hourly. Looks still pretty damn bullish, and I'm not a big wave guy, but when you see these, there is a thing where they like to move in 3s and 5s, mostly 5s, on larger moves like this. So you could say this is kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. That kind of looks in the cards, but considering that we are, ooh crap, since we are at the 618 retracements on most of the top dogs, including even Stellar itself, you know, this is not a great risk to reward entry here for a long position by any means. So one thing that I am long on, if you just wanted to know, is Ethereum Classic. I think this one has been a little bit late to the party, to the parlay. We are getting resistance here though, at about 1170, or let's just call it 1180. Still looking fairly neutral on the 4-hour, on the 1 hour, on the 850, and on the daily. How about the 3-day, just to get some, and on the 3-day, and on the weekly. So Ethereum Classic is just totally super neutral right now. I just don't think, I think it hasn't had the pop yet. That, you know, it hasn't followed everything else really. I mean, yeah, I guess it did go up like $1, but you know, I'm more targeting kind of to that 618 pullback on this guy, which is closer to about 12.5, like around the mid 12s. That's what I've been kind of looking for on this trade. So, well, if you wanted to, let's just set that up here since it is going down. So about here, and can stop here, targeting the longer term moving average. And let me see, I'll probably have my stop about 3%, 2.5%. So that's pretty nice. It gives you almost 5-6 to 1, depending exactly how you set it up. That's kind of how my setup is right now for this trade. All right, let's look at the Bitcoin shorts. Oh, they're finally going down. Look at that. It's been a hot minute. They've been battling up here in the upper range, which is about 40,000 Bitcoin, and they are selling off at the moment. Nothing too drastic. Price is going to have to really kick up a little for that to happen. Like, pretty much get over the 68, 6,900 level, which we've been discussing. All right, let's jump over to traditional equities. Since it is Sunday night, you know, we like to talk about that. Since they all opened up, futures opened, they opened Chicago time at 5 o'clock. So let's see how this has been going. We have been talking about buying pullbacks in the market as it has looked very strong. Let me just put it on the daily, take off all the racket here. And it has been looking fairly strong. Here's the all-time highs, previous ones right there at about 28.75. This is where we were talking about really having the nice entry to get long, and also you had another opportunity here, and we've been just using kind of the 21 exponential as buying opportunities, and I like to do that in the form of a strangle, or not a strangle, I'm sorry, a spread on the bottom, selling a put spread when price goes down below you know, some of the good support, which is about 28.75 all-time highs. This is perfect textbook, great price action. This is what you want to see. Nice and orderly sell-off right to the test old highs, bounce off of it, do a 618 from that, and then extend. That is perfect price action. And now we're coming back to test about these 29.15 levels, it looks like. So that's going to be kind of my line in the sand. If we can't keep just ratcheting up this, about 2900 level will be my ultimate like WTF stop, which means the hell are you still doing in this trade? Which isn't a bad idea to set like 2 stops if, I don't know, if you don't do that. On the hourly though, it does look like the bears have stepped in since futures have opened. We have gap down about, it's not that much, like 5 or 6 points. And at most it looks like almost 10. So, you know, it's kind of a hefty move in these markets. But this is an overnight session, so that's not as important as the regular session, which starts at 8:30 Central Time, which is Chicago time. So, or maybe Dallas or Houston, you know, depending on where you're at exactly. But, so, the hourly just got bearish on the S&P, and that's the only one that's going to be. We'll wait until tomorrow, and we'll do a video tomorrow on that. We are finding support right here in the 4-hour 21 exponential. That would be great. That coincides with that area. A little bit above it, where we were just talking about, is 29.15. So it's about 10 more points. Again, using these as long entry opportunities has kind of been my play since I've been talking about this in the video, which I've been talking. Been trying to do it every time, and I skip them on Saturdays if I do a video Saturday, just because the markets aren't open, right? All right, so NASDAQ looking nice, coming right here to this trend line. It is definitely selling off a little bit. Let's see if on the hourly. In the hourly, it definitely got bearish here, but it actually did that at the very end of the day on Friday on this big little. That makes a lot of sense, on this dump right at the end of the day. And then it looks like some continuation is happening, but we are getting support on this longer term trend line that has been intact since March, since the big sell-off at the beginning of the year. So that's going to be pretty good support there. And let's see here, if we move it even down a little just to give us some extra room. Yeah, it still puts us at about 7,500 as support. It is finding support at the 21 exponential. So again, I've been more playing the S&P, the NASDAQ. I do not have a position in at the moment. So But if you're kind of looking at this, same deal as S&P. This is like kind of the stop for this. It has a real clean trend line, I guess, so it's not the same, but it does have a clean trend line to be checking out there. So do keep an eye on this price, set an alert, and wait for it to get there. Maybe we'll have some opportunity to get some more long delta in the markets. And the big reason that it's still kind of bullish for me is, and this I've been talking about this since price was back here. I was saying that all the other markets were kind of getting ahead of themselves, but the Dow was not playing along with them. And I've been wanting to see the headline where we all have new market highs in every market at the same time. That'll probably happen this week. If I bet money on it, static bet, I would put money on that. And we are getting above these. We finally did break out last week, and we are having a little bit of a gap run. That's okay. That's not a huge thing. We are getting in kind of a blue sky breakout territory, which means that, let's see what a measured move on this is. We'll take off this more recent, bigger sell-off. Oh, look at that. Wow. How funny. So we are exactly at the 2618 from this sell-off there. And if we take it from the most local sell-off, it's also the same. Wow, that is really wild. Fibonacci is freaking crazy sometimes. And then if we take it off this larger sell-off, it is at the 2. So, all right, so this needs to just keep the momentum up. And on the daily from this bigger sell-off, you're looking at a target of like 27.5. That's not that far away. That would only be almost 3% from prices where they are now. That's not much. But now really the narrative can happen. What I was saying and been looking for is let's make all-time highs with every market right before the election to give ultimate awesome euphoria, and that seems to be playing out. So I am still long the market right here. I don't see very many things that show that it's very bearish. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we had one of these little sell-offs like this to give it some more fuel here in the next couple weeks, but I imagine that's going to be pushed out closer to mid-October, something like that. Maybe headlines will start swirling that Democrats are taking over, they have a chance to win the House, and then the markets get silly. But that'll just be we'll see that in price before that, guys. Y'all know how it works. Don't care about that news. Looks like the hourly is starting to print some upper resistance around 27,000 on the Dow. So as soon as we get above that, should be free range. We might come test this gap though before we continue. That would be perfect long setup. All right, let's go to crude. That good old oil. It's been looking bullish. We've been talking about it. Also talked about how my strangle had negative delta, which obviously hasn't been helping me today, but that's okay. You don't always win. The hourly is looking pretty decent again since this is overnight session. It's really more important what happens in the regular session, and that is from Central Time, Chicago time, pretty much 8 to 3 p.m. So we'll follow up on this, but it does look still pretty damn bullish for sure. I guess the one chart pattern that does stand out right now is this rising wedge has become a little bit more defined. Like you kind of draw it like this, like so. So this has become a little bit more defined, although not the best looking wedge. Those aren't my favorite patterns anyway. I'll see those kinds of things start breaking down in the indicators I use. So I'm kind of getting away from, especially short-term trend lines. I do like long, like channels like this. I do like to have those on there. But like shorter ones, just like this one, it's just kind of, it's a little too noisy for me. All right, so hourly, bullish. 4-hour, bullish. Daily, neutral. 3-day, neutral. 850, still a little bit bullish. So there probably is a little bit of follow through here, maybe coming up to test. Oh, excuse me. Actually, it's going to be pretty tough to get past like 72. So if it gets above 72, then we'll probably test like 75. That's what it kind of looks like to me. All right, let's go to gold. Good old gold. Can't get out of its own way, can it, y'all? The bulls are trying to get some power on the daily. They just can't muster it up. They keep getting sold off at that 12-15 area, and now the bears do have control over gold again for this week. It looks like starting off the week it is bearish. So, but given that we've been going sideways and we have this crazy range that's really tight in gold, it's probably best to just play this one in the range, which is only about a $15-20 range. Wait for price to get out of there, and then maybe jump on the bandwagon. 618 retracement is this low here. So as a reference, let's go ahead and just drag that box down to there. Boom. Make that range a little bit bigger. So that is kind of our range that we'll be playing with gold. Keep an eye on that. All right. Let's go check out Facebook real quick. Oh, no, we can't. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not Monday. That's silly. Bitcoin. Man, I'm tired. It's been a long weekend. Let's get it in. Final thoughts. BTC. Still finding resistance here. 2 different resistances. 3 different resistances. Because you also have these 618. Oh, I guess I drew that kind of sloppy, didn't I? No, I didn't. That's about right. Oh, yeah. So you have the 618 is right up here at 69. Which coincides with our box over here. So you've got massive resistance at 6,900, 7,000. I can't imagine price will be able to bust through that unless an ETF gets passed. That seems to be what people want. I'm not seeing the bullishness in the market anymore like we were last week. It has been sucked out. So do be careful at price here. If you have some longs, it might not be a bad idea to manage them. I know I am. I'm not telling you what to do. Learn how to trade, learn how to do risk management. But what I'm doing right here is the risk to reward ratio has shifted a little bit to more neutral than anything. And until we can get some daily closes and even just get some hourly and 4-hour candles, you know, up in here around the upper part of this range, preferably above 6,800, because we only had like kind of one. What did that close at? Wow, it closed literally at 6,800. You can see that right here when I'm over the candle. All right, now look at it. 6,800 on the dot. Pretty funny. So there's going to be massive resistance in that zone. And on the hourly, the bears have regained control over the last 24 or about 36 hours. So do be careful. They are neutral still on the 4-hour, but up against massive resistance. You do have cool flag formations, though, on a lot of your big boys. Right here. Bam. So, there you go. That's all we need. Price above 68, 69. Until then, massive resistance awaits. You could argue that a risk to reward favors a short right here. But that would be a little bit dangerous, in my opinion, given this week. It's only 1 week, and there's going to be announcements. I'm going to wait to see what happens tomorrow for sure. See if we get any kind of news out on that. But it's likely just going to be pushed back, won't matter. And, you know, hopefully the market's gotten to the point, like I talked about in the other stream, where they are... What the hell? Why did that print there? Where it's going to be a non-event. Like, people, you only can cry wolf so many times, right? And everyone's like, oh, no, it's the market, it's this, it's that. I mean, because look at this, too. I mean, I would imagine that maybe this sell-off was actually from that article that got put out. There's something about Bitcoin being vulnerable, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I thought that was a bug from a long time ago. I might be mistaken, but, you know, it's all fixed. It's not a big deal. So that was kind of funny timing, trying to splash some cold water on this. We'll see if that follows through. All right, guys. So that's the price I'm looking for. 68. On the downside, if we close below, especially below 66, I'm going to start getting bearish again. Till then, I'm still very cautiously bullish overall, but the hourly on the DMI is telling us to be careful on BTC. But do mind you, on LTC and ETH, they actually are bullish. So, little confused market out there. Makes perfect sense for coming up into this week, though. Or with that said, if you enjoyed any of this, please check out my other videos. Hit that sub, bell, and smash. This is No Noise. Your host, Z-Rex, signing off. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.